It's Oxegen 2010, and I am joined by Mr. Joshua Radin. Hello, Joshua. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Before we get into your music or your life or anything like that, you've got some really bad news because you look a bit traumatized. Tell me what happened and explain what it means.
Well, I grew up in a town called Cleveland, Ohio, and of course I grew up as a basketball fan. And I know people don't really care about basketball over here, but I don't know any Irish basketball players.
Tell me about the analogy you just gave me before we went on air.
Well, LeBron James is the best basketball player in the world, and he's from my hometown, a homegrown boy, and he's like the biggest athlete we have, and he's the best basketball player in the world. And he left Cleveland 2 days ago to go join Miami with two amazing basketball players and sort of form an evil empire. And the analogy I would draw, I guess, for footballers is it's like if Diego Maradona had left in the 70s for Argentina and been like, right after being like, yes, I'm the best footballer in the world, I think I'm going to go play for Brazil. Argentina would probably go kill him.
Definitely in Latin America.
I think LeBron's getting some death threats in Cleveland.
So it's like there's black flags hanging out, and it's just a really bad time.
Turned on the news on the internet, and I was watching, and a lot of people in Ohio were burning his jersey.
Oh God, it's very sad. But hang on now. You didn't stay in Cleveland or Shaker Heights yourself. You moved to New York, so you've got something to answer for yourself.
That's true, but you know what? There's not really a music scene in Cleveland. I mean, we had a basketball team for him that we went to the finals. You know what I mean? Like, he was fine, and he was making more money than he could have made more money than any basketball player in the world staying in Cleveland. So I don't know.
Well, it's not all about money, but
for him, I'm saying it's obviously about money.
Oh, because by going to Miami, that's what happened.
Well, he thinks he's going to win when he wins even more championship rings, he's going to get more. I don't know the guy.
Look, it'll come back to...
He's a hometown boy,
I know, it'll come back to bite him in the ass. We'll see. There's karma happening here. But speaking of Ohio,
we're getting too negative now.
Oh, sorry, we'll bring it up here. Cleveland, Ohio, obviously it had some kind of effect on your musical forming. What would you say that was?
Well, honestly, I started playing music 6 years ago, long after I left Cleveland. I mean, I left Cleveland after high school when I was 18. So I didn't grow up as a musician. I didn't grow up playing music. I grew up listening to music. We had great radio stations, actually, great oldies radio stations. I grew up listening to a ton of Motown and Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Jackie Wilson, all that kind of stuff. Buddy Holly, the Beatles. I don't know. That's what seeped in. And then my parents played me a lot of Dylan, Neil Young, Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, Cat Stevens, classic songwriters who understood that lyrics were just as important.
Sure, and yes, radio is very important, but a lot of modern radio these days would need necessarily be avoided if you want to form your own kind of musical ideas, I suppose.
Well, radio now is one of many vehicles to get your music out to the people. It used to be the only way. When I was a kid, when my mom would drive me to school, when I was 6-7 years old, there's a couple radio stations, and we'd go back and forth between them. If it was a commercial, we'd go to the other one and back and forth, and they played great music, great music. Even pop music back then, it was like Michael Jackson, Thriller. It was good stuff. Prince. Nowadays it's tough to find the top 40 stations that are really playing other things other than Britney Spears and the really sort of bubblegum pop.
Lady Antebellum. But you say that people do get their music from all sorts of different sources like this, from the radio, from television programs, from everything. Everything has been so kind of scattered and segmented. And a lot of critics have a go at you for getting your music into television programs, successful television programs like Home and other programs in America. House. I think that's House. Oh, sorry, Home. I'm getting mixed up with Dr. Home, Dr. Bill, Dr. Bill. No, but my point in here is I think that's terribly unfair of them to say that, because so many I've read a couple of articles that say because you know Zach Braff from Scrubs, that you've had access to get your move on television, but loads and loads of bands get the opportunity to do that as well, and they don't all go on to be very successful artists. So I think that's kind of unfair on you.
Well, not only that, I think the internet, TV series, films, adverts, all those social net, Facebook, Twitter, there's MySpace. There's so many ways for artists nowadays to get their music out there and not just have to kowtow to the big wigs at major labels. And there's no payola anymore with the big radio stations, at least in the States. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I think it's the internet has become the great equalizer. And so a lot of music supervisors that do TV shows and films have become sort of like program directors for the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, shows like Scrubs and Grey's Anatomy and American Idol and all these shows that have used like all my songs. That's sort of like, well, I mean,
are they the new MTV, really?
Yeah, I mean, you don't see music on MTV anymore. So where else do you know? When's the last time I saw a music video?
You just see the inside of rappers' houses.
When I was growing up, MTV was the coolest. I mean, I'd watch MTV all day long and watch videos, but it doesn't exist anymore. Now it's celeb reality and whatever. So, musicians will always find a way to get their music out to the people. And anyone who says like, putting your music in an advert or in a TV series or film is like selling out. You're like, I remember watching The Graduate as a kid and loving that Simon and Garfunkel soundtrack, or Harold and Maude, one of my favorite movies, and the Cat Stevens soundtrack. Or, I remember turning on the TV and seeing Bob Dylan in a Victoria's Secret commercial in an advert. It was like, so any musician is sort of like, I won't give my song to that. Where you're like, really? Well, Dylan did. You're cooler than Dylan.
And that's it. Yeah,
I feel like Dylan makes the rules.
He does. He certainly does make the rules. And speaking of which, you kind of did give it to the man. When you recorded your second album, Simple Times, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That they wanted you to tack on another song that they thought would be a bit more radio friendly, and you refused to do so.
Actually, it wasn't that. What they wanted to do was re-record the entire record. They loved the songs, but they wanted the production to be a lot more radio friendly. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'm glad you like the songs, but I don't write songs and produce them in studio based on a radio format. That's like, if radio stations like them and you want to play them, great. I'd love for people to hear my music. But so I ended up giving all their money back. It was Columbia Records, and I gave them all their money back, and I took the Simple Times record as is. I shopped it around and found an indie label, a brand new indie label called Mom and Pop in New York.
Who couldn't go for a label called Mom and Pop?
Right.
But were you scared? Was this like I'm going to walk off the cliff here and just see what happens?
I didn't sleep for about a month. I mean, I gave up, I'd signed a big record deal with Columbia Records, and it was like, all of a sudden I could pay my rent, and I had a nice apartment in New York, and it was like everything was kind of cush, And then I was like, wow, I have to sort of give this all up so that I can sleep at night. And there was some vindication anyway, because I put the record out myself with no lead time for press. We didn't get any reviews because you need like to put a record out 3 months in advance for Rolling Stone and all the kind of magazines to review it. Mom and Pop picked it up, put it out 3 weeks later on iTunes, just on iTunes, and it went to number 1 on iTunes. So I think everyone at Columbia was like,
no!
Yeah,
I hate to use the Simpsonisms, but
I love this. It's the best show ever.
But absolutely. But listen, continued success to you, Joshua, and may you break the rules more often as you move along through your career. And you think you're going to leave us with a song now, and it's your forthcoming single. What's it called?
It's called Brand New Day. It's on my record Simple Times, and I hope you guys dig it.